goblins and ghouls, to the Spooktober edition. Creature, feature, after the credits. We'll break down the goriest and the scariest movies, including our favorite scenes, quotes, trivia, and even our favorite death. Stick around to see who lives and who dies.
And welcome to After the Credits with Tyler, Spooktober edition. We are doing a full month of horror films. This is one of the reasons why I started this podcast, so we could do goofy things like themed months and genre months. I'm really excited about it. Plus, this movie, I'm talking with just Dylan. It's just me and Dylan here right now in the dungeon, which is always a good time. I like talking with Dylan about movies. That's what I meant to say. Dylan, thanks for joining me and filling in for this one.
Hey.
So this week we are doing Shaun of the Dead, comedy and horror mixed together to make the perfect fucking movie. One of the main things I want to ask you is like, because there's when Nick Frost and Simon Pegg do movies, they usually do like kind of a British version of a movie that was done in America, or vice versa.
Yeah.
The United States will do a movie that they did, that they kind of did. So, Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead, which one would you choose out of the two? What's your favorite?
Wow.
Right?
Wasn't expecting that.
Right?
I have no time. I mean, if put me on the spot, I have to say Shaun of the Dead because I just saw it. I would have to rewatch Zombieland. I'd have to watch them back to back.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I mean, Zombieland. You bring up a really good point that one's American and one's British.
Yeah.
And
they're both zombie comedy movies that came out around a similar time.
Really, I didn't know.
I think so. Can you check and see when Zombieland came out? But
yeah,
and they've done this with other Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. They did this. So the movie The World's End, that came out around the time the movie This Is the End came out in the United States. And they're pretty much the same movie. A bunch of famous people who are friends who are going through the apocalypse. So Zombieland came out in
2009.
2009. So this was before Zombieland. Yeah. So by a bit, by like 5 years. So, but yeah, I've always kind of said that like, oh, we copy what they do,
right?
And put it out a little bit later. But yeah, it's tough for me to say as well my favorite between those two, just because although they're both zombie movie comedies, they're both vastly different. They're just really, really different.
Yeah, two completely different, styles of comedy. I mean, British comedy is and it's its own right.
I think it's hilarious.
And I think this movie has something to say. Because when I was telling my parents we're doing this movie, and I explained to them, I was like, well, it's a zombie movie, but I was like, it's all satire. It's like they're making fun of zombie movies in a way.
Oh man, the trivia I have for this just lights up that whole.
I'm sure. I mean, they're coming to get you, Barbara. Right. I mean, that's one that everyone should know. Right. But my mom was like, oh, like kind of like the remake of Scream, like that. No. And I was like, you're thinking a Scary Movie. Yeah. And I was like, no.
Don't even put those fucking movies in the same
I was like, Scary
genre.
Movie. I was like, that's dumb. That's like just.
Well, it's satire, but for the sole means of being satire. I mean, it's like satirical. Right. Like these. Yeah. This is a movie that is funny and satirical, but it pays homage to the other zombie films.
Absolutely.
Like the Scary Movie films, which the older ones, the first like 1, 2, and 3. Say what you will about them, but they were humorous, and they also pushed the envelope a little bit more. But they were straight up just shitting on every other
whatever
horror
was hot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is sophisticated satire.
It really is. Yeah. This movie is a smart
and like you said, pays homage
horror comedy. Yeah, for sure,
absolutely.
So yeah, let's. I guess we can hop into it. So, but like previously, like I said, I can't. I probably shouldn't have brought it up because I can't decide between Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead.
You did this to yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. But I just thought it was a funny, an interesting line to draw between the two.
Let me watch Zombieland and then I'll text you and let you know.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good. So, as I stated, we're doing Shaun of the Dead. The tagline for this movie is, "It's just one of those days when you're feeling a little dead. It's awesome. Literally everything about this movie, and you'll see when we get to the rankings section, ranking part is how much I love this movie. So, this release date was September 24th, 2004. Funny thing about this, I remember when I was younger, my dad, my brother, and I, we went to go see this in the theaters, and we went to AMC Oakview when the day that it came out, and went up there and we're like, hey, we need 3 tickets to Shaun of the Dead, and they're like, yeah, we're not showing that movie. Like that movie's not here. There was like 3 different theaters we checked on, and they weren't showing it like anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, there was. I mean, honestly, it's a foreign film. It's a foreign release. I don't know why, but when we get to the budget and stuff, and a little bit more into like how it was made and stuff like that, it might explain it, but I had to wait for it to come out to see it. I wasn't able to see this in the theaters because it just wasn't showing anywhere.
Huh.
Maybe if I went to like maybe like a smaller theater or a theater that shows more independent type films, maybe they would have been showing it. But yeah, I mean, I was young. It was 2004. I was super young when this came out. But yeah, we couldn't see it in theaters, and I was bummed because I was super excited to see it. So yeah, this came out in, like I said, September 24th, 2004. The only movie that it went up against that came out in September was Resident Evil Apocalypse. So both zombie films, both good films. I mean, the Resident Evil Apocalypse is probably my favorite out of that franchise, that I really, really enjoyed. So, let's see here. We can talk about the budget because that's interesting in and of itself. So, £4 million is estimated the budget. The smallest budget we've covered. Smallest budget movie that we've covered, that equals out to being about $5,400,000 to $5,600,000 US dollars.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gave me a look like, what is that? What's the conversion rate?
This is a heavy movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is a £4 million movie. But yeah, so gross US and Canada, it came out at $13 million. So it made its money back in US and Canada, even though I couldn't fucking find a place to go watch it at.
Right.
Opening weekend in U.S. and Canada in the U.S. and Canada was about $3 million. Gross worldwide since it came out is $30,097,000. So it made a ton of money back, and I think it's just because this is another film that we've covered that kind of gained a little bit of a cult following, and has become more popular mainstream since it was made and since it's been discovered. So the synopsis of this film is: life isn't too good for Shaun, played by Simon Pegg. He lives with his best friend Ed, Nick Frost, neglects his girlfriend Liz, and despises his stepdad Phil. When Liz dumps Shaun, he vows to get his life back on track. Unfortunately, this is the day that the dead have decided to come back to life. With a cricket bat and Ed by his side, Shaun gets out to rescue those he loves and those who he really doesn't love, and heads to the Winchester.
It's funny. I like when you read the synopsis of movies, because that's not inaccurate. That's accurate.
Exactly what. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes down.
But a majority of what you just read happens in the first 20 minutes, the breakup.
Yeah.
But the zombie part of it that's the meat and potatoes of the movie.
It really is. Yeah,
I mean, he breaks the breakup happens, and then it's the next morning that the zombies are there.
Yeah, the breakup happens. Him and Ed go out and get hammered, go back to sleep, and wake up in the morning and realize that. I mean, he's walking to the store to get a cornetto for Ed, and I mean the little kid, and we'll get into it a little bit more about it because there's just so much stuff that ties in from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. There's a lot of reverse scenes that go back and talk about things that previously happened and
which
call
is
back
you
and
don't
stuff.
you don't get that with a lot of comedies. It's a really smart movie,
and that's
and
what
go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before, and that what you were mentioning before as well is like it's just a really well made and smart movie like that, but it's also goofy and makes you laugh your ass off. Like I was watching this last night, and I've probably seen this movie. I couldn't even put a number on it. I've seen this movie so many times, and I'm still like belly laughing while I'm watching it. I was like, that's hilarious. That is so funny.
Right.
But yeah, it's very smart. So, that's the synopsis you have there. The director of this movie, is Edgar Wright. He's the director of Hot Fuzz and others. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movie that I love. It's so funny. Scott Pilgrim. He directed that as well. The Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
The World. Yep.
He directed that one, and then The World's End, the other one that I spoke about before. So he's basically the guy that writes and directs, the Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movies.
Also, the only reason I know his name is because he was originally written, and he was originally supposed to be the director for Ant-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Who ended up taking over Ant-Man? Do you know? Yeah, I don't.
Not Edgar Wright.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well,
Let me look it up.
Ant-Man is good, but I mean, if Edgar Wright had done it, I feel like it would have been fantastic.
Peyton Reed. Yeah,
Peyton
I forgot.
Reed. Don't know who
the bald guy.
Okay. Yeah. Don't know who he is. Don't know what else he's done. But I'd like to see Edgar Wright's. Did you say he was supposed to direct it or write it?
I think maybe he came up with the script, but I know for sure he was supposed to direct it.
Okay. So yeah, let's get into the cast a little bit. So there's going to be a lot of names that you guys won't recognize, and if you do recognize them, hats off to you because they're all British actors. And they're all what's crazy is they're all like pretty big name British actors. Similar to what Zombieland did. I mean, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Bill Murray, Jesse Eisenberg. Like they brought in big names for Zombieland. And I feel like it's a little bit of a copy of what they did with Shaun of the Dead. So
yeah,
we've got Simon Pegg plays Shaun. He was in Star Trek. He's been in a lot of American stuff, but he's really known for his movies with Nick Frost. He was in the movie Paul with Seth Rogen and Nick Frost, where they go to the nerd convention and discover the alien that's
the Alien
Seth Rogen.
movie. Yeah.
Kristen Wiig, I think, is in that too. We got Kate Ashfield, who plays Liz. I'm not very sure what else she's been in. She's also in these Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movies. Nick Frost plays Ed, big old cuddly teddy bear looking dude. I love Ed. You got Lucy Davis, who plays Diane. That's Shaun's mom in the movie. She's fantastic. She's also a big name actress. She was in a radio adaptation version of The Lord of the Rings in London. So she, that's kind of how she got her notoriety, but she's also a fantastic actress. We got Dylan Moran, who plays David, just a fucking puke. He's annoying. He's my least favorite character in this movie, but I think he was necessary to have in the film to have that type of character. We've got Bill. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Bill Nighy?
Nahoy hoy.
Nahoy Minoy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he plays Philip. He's Shaun's stepdad. The thing that I know him most in is Pirates of the Caribbean. He plays Davy Jones. He's
that
Davy
is
Jones,
him.
the octopus dude. Yeah. He's also in Hot Fuzz. He's also in The World's End. He's a big actor.
What other stuff is he in? His voice, because now after you said Davy, that it's starting to bring some stuff back.
Yeah. And so Davy Jones, in Pirates of the Caribbean. Let me look up some of his other stuff that he's done here. So, the TV show Castlevania, he was in that. He was Detective Pikachu. He was Howard Clifford in that. I don't know that character. Elder Scrolls. He
was a vampire somewhere, wasn't he?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my God, Underworld.
Yeah. Okay.
Underworld. Jeez.
I could hear it, and I didn't want to say Blade.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just got done with Blade, and I would have sounded like a fool.
Yep, he was also in I, Frankenstein.
Note to self: edit this part out of episode.
Total Recall. I mean, he's done a lot of Rango. He was the rattlesnake in Rango. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
What was he there?
Doctor Who. So in Rango, he was a rattlesnake. In Harry Potter, he was Minister Rufus Scrimgeour.
Okay, so he wasn't. My
like
brother
one
would
of the main. I don't think he was a big name. Man, I'm going through here, and there's just so many things.
His voice,
done.
and that's and maybe you guys know this about me, but I mean, this is how I know people from movies. Is hey, that voice sounds really familiar. I know him from something, and sometimes I can go, yep, it's Underworld. Came out in 2004. Most of the time, I can't. And when you said Davy, I went, okay, I'm listening to his voice in my head. I can hear him being a vampire. Right. I can hear it. I don't know where the hell it's from, but I can hear it.
He's got that very recognizable voice for sure. So he plays Philip, which, like I said, he's Shaun's stepdad. Another one that I didn't want to skip past and not mention is Martin Freeman was in this. The guy he's been in Marvel films. He was in Black Panther. He was in The Hobbit as Bilbo Baggins. But the reason he got the role in this was because of his part in the British Office, the British version of The Office. You got to know who he is. When you see his face, you'll know who he is.
What was his name?
Martin Freeman. He was also Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch. Or he wasn't Sherlock Holmes, but he was Watson in Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch.
What was he?
British,
yeah. What was he in Shaun of the Dead?
So there's a point where they're going to the Winchester and they're kind of walking through the back alleyways.
He was the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which part is so great.
Yeah.
They literally
it's a
have
great
the
movie.
counterparts of every person walking past each other, and they greet each other.
And it was
the same way
it was so quick. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's in that. That's his part in that movie. Martin Freeman's one of my favorite actors out right now. It was just cool to see him have like a cameo bit in this. So, let's see here. You want to get into some quotes?
Quotes! I want the quotes!
You can't handle the quotes!
Here's our favorite quote from this week's movie.
Let's talk about some quotes. This movie is
full episode of quotes.
Yeah, this movie is so quotable.
I'm gonna say one because I don't want you to take it, and it's one of my favorites. You've got red on you.
Oh yeah, and that comes back.
Yeah, it's a repeated line.
Yeah.
He's got the red pen in his pocket and it explodes, and one of his I don't know if you want to call them subordinates or
one of his
coworkers calls him out on it, says you've got red on you, and then
that same scene, his stepdad comes in,
and
right before he leaves, you got red on you,
right,
and then after they go in the garden and beat the shit out of those two with the cricket bats. He's covered in blood. He's in there. He's licking the ice cream out the cornetto, and Ed looks over at it. He's like, "You got red on you," and he's just covered in blood. There's blood all over him. But yeah, that comes up multiple times throughout the movie. I like the quote between Shaun and Ed. Between Shaun, Ed, and then Pete, or not Pete. I'm sorry, David. It's after they get to the Winchester and they bust the David fucks up and he busts the window open and gets inside. Shaun goes to lead all the zombies away, and then he finally comes back, and he's like, well, I wasn't talking to David. Shaun goes, well, I wasn't the one who blew our cover by breaking the window. And he's like, well, I wasn't the one who was busy having a tiff with my boyfriend. He goes, he's not my boyfriend. And at that time, Ed walks up, and he's like, he handing him a beer, and he's like, it's a bit warm, the cooler's off. And Shaun just like winks at him, he's like, thanks, babe. That's what. And honestly, you guys remember Isaiah from the Blade trilogy that we did. That's how we speak to each other, and there's so many people that call Isaiah my boyfriend and vice versa, because that's just how we talk to each other. But yeah, that part's hilarious. It's one of my favorite quotes. I'm
gonna take this one as well. It's when the jukebox in the bar is just blasting.
Yeah,
and they're trying to get it off because it's attracting all the attention. All the zombies are coming, and then Shaun yells, David, kill the queen.
Yeah,
and then and this is something that you have to take into effect that it's a British movie,
right?
And you don't say things like that. You don't say things like "kill the queen."
Right.
And I suppose it would be the American equivalent of "kill the president,"
right.
but maybe not so much. But yeah. So he yells, "David, kill the queen!" And then David goes, "What?" And then that's when Shaun goes, "The jukebox," because at the time it's playing Queen's song.
Yep. Don't Stop Me Now.
Don't Stop Me Now. Yeah, that's right. And then all the lights are flickering and everything.
Right.
It was a
that
good
scene's
scene.
awesome too, because they're beating him in rhythm,
in sync
with the song with the pool sticks and stuff. He sprays him with the fire extinguisher. Yeah, that's fantastic. Another one I like is when Shaun and Ed come back from the bar after Liz broke up with him. They're all drunk. They've got their hats on backwards and they've got their like electro records and they're spinning records and everything. And Pete comes out, takes the record, throws it out the window. Which another line from this line that I'm about to say is that's the second album I ever bought. Throws it out in the garden, and it comes up later when they are trying to beat down the zombies that are in the garden. He talks about, that's the second album I ever bought. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of recurring lines that make this movie just so much more enjoyable if you're paying attention. When I first saw this, it took me a couple times to watch the movie to realize, like, oh, look at all these goddamn callbacks. Look at all these, these reoccurring lines and reoccurring bits that they do throughout the movie. But the line that I want to talk about is they come home, they're all drunk. Pete comes in the room because they're making all this noise, they're scratching records and everything, and he takes the record out of the turntable and he throws it out the window. And Pete goes, it's 4 in the fucking morning. And Shaun's like, it's Saturday. He's like, no, it's not. It's fucking Sunday. And I've got to go to fucking work in 4 fucking hours because every other fucker in my fucking department is fucking ill. Now can you see why I'm so fucking angry? And Ed goes, fuck yeah. Like that's that part. Because
matches
he hates Ed. And
they hate each other.
Yeah, it's just I love that part. It's so well delivered, so well done, and Ed's fuck yeah after the end of it is just
matches his energy. Like, now I'm pissed too. I'm pissed with you.
Fuck yeah, it's so good.
So Philip's the dad, right?
Yeah.
No, he's not my dad. He's my stepdad.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a reoccurring bit throughout. I mean, it's not too funny.
And then when he finally turns into a zombie,
right? They have a little heartfelt moment.
He goes, he's not my dad. And she's like, oh, Shaun. She's like, no, he was my dad, but he's not anymore. He's
right.
like, trust me, woman. There's no one in that car. The thing that's left in that car right now is like is no longer your husband or whatever.
It's not Philip. It's not Philip. It's not my dad. It's not your husband.
And then he reaches up and turns the...
Yeah, and then he turns the music because that was the bit all before was he wanted the fucking music turned down. But another scene, and I guess it's not a scene. Another reoccurring bit that they have is like the really fast pace. Here's the plan. We're going to go here. We're going to do this. I'm going to get Liz back. She's going to be my girlfriend. We're going to go to the Winchester, have a cold pint, and take the day off.
You want me to do that one? Because that's one that I had.
Okay, yeah.
You're
go
kind
for
of
it.
off
Go
with
for
it.
it.
But that's basically what it is. So,
yeah.
It cuts to the dream sequence the third time because they're basically going into like their dream of what they need to do to go make sure to save everyone and get them to the Winchester. But the third and final time is take car, go to mom's, kill Phil. And then it cuts, and he's like, sorry, and he's hitting him with the cricket bat in the head. He's like, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Right.
How's that for a slice of fried gold? And yeah, boy.
Yeah, right.
That whole line is just fantastic.
And the bit is that they they're changing it. They're like, well, no, we can't go to this apartment
because I want to go to a place where I want to smoke.
I want to go to a place I want to smoke. So then they change the plan and it becomes the Winchester.
No, they change the plan to where they're supposed to go back to their place. And he's like, no, we can't do that. And he's like, well, look at the state of it. Like the zombie busted through the front door. It's all messy. There's a dead zombie in the house.
Right. So they keep changing the plan, and then they change that bit that they do.
Yeah.
And in one of them, he forgets to mention that he's going to kill Phil.
Right.
And then so that's when Ed says to him, Ed, wait, don't forget to kill Philip.
Yeah.
And that line I just think is fucking hilarious because, and that's one of the things in the zombie movies is, and it's more than just the original Romero trilogy.
Right.
They do this in a lot of zombie movies. I mean, sometimes they'll have one person that they key in on, and it's heartfelt, but a lot of time they just blow over the fact like that's a loved one.
And there's two parts in this that they really, actually 3 parts that I mean there's one part at the end that honestly like gets me choked up when I'm watching it just because of how like it's rough. It's super rough. But yeah, like the whole zombie movies definitely gloss over the whole fact like, oh, that guy's like, if you're family member, and I've had this conversation with Molly if like the zombie apocalypse happens, like would you be able to kill me if I turned into a zombie? Like if the zombie apocalypse
I had that conversation with my wife Molly, and because we were watching this movie, I asked her, I was like, you think you could do it?
Right.
And she's heartless, and she went,
fuck yeah.
Yep.
Said, yeah, boy.
But yeah, so when he said, oh, don't forget to kill Philip, it was just so nonchalant. Like, just dude, that's a thing. It's a bullet point. It's a task at hand.
Yep, for
sure. I thought it was a little funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And another line that, and I'll bring this up a little bit. Shoot, I've got like 3 more. Another line that, and it's a little bit of a monologue between Ed and Shaun. They're at the bar. Liz is broken up with him, and Ed's trying to cheer Shaun up. He's trying to, let him know that things aren't so bad and everything like that. And he's trying to let him know, like, hey, like, here's what we do. We keep drinking. We just keep drinking. We party through the rest of this, and we get through it that way. And Ed suggests, he's like, listen, this is what we're gonna do. He's like, Bloody Mary first thing in the morning. He's like, a bite of the king's head, a cup of the little princess, stagger back here, and bang, back at the bar for shots. It foreshadows the rest of the film, like the entire rest of the film. So first, the first girl zombie named Mary is the Bloody Mary in the back of in the garden, when they're in their house and they have to go out and they have to kill those zombies. His stepfather Phil getting bitten. That's a bite at the king's head. Yep, saving Liz and her friends is a couple at the Little Princess. So a couple drinks at the Little Princess. They're going to get Liz and her friends. The other one was Stagger Back Here, which is them pretending to be zombies and staggering to the bar. And then, back at the bar for shots is them having the gunfight with the zombies at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pay attention to that and then realize what happens the rest of the movie, you're like, oh, they literally just told us everything. Like Ed just laid out everything that's going to happen the rest of this movie. Which another thing that just makes this movie brilliant.
Yeah.
Like really, really smart. But yeah, that's a fun line, and if you're paying attention, it's really cool. So, it sounds like you've kind of ran out of quotes. Is that right?
Take it
So
from
I've got
here.
a couple more here. So, we've got spoiler alert: Ed gets bitten by Pete, the roommate that he doesn't like. Which brings back the whole multiple times Shaun is telling Pete to leave Ed alone because he's making fun of Ed's weight, making fun of Ed being a weed dealer and kind of being a bum and just living at home and everything. So Pete bites Ed, and then Ed eventually he turns into he's about to turn into a zombie. He's not doing so hot. So they find in the back of the bar a way to escape and get out and survive. And right before and it's also a reoccurring line. These just keep coming up, but they're getting ready to take this lift out of the basement of the Winchester, and Liz goes, "Goodbye, Ed. I love you." And Ed's like, "Cheers." Shaun goes, "I love you too, man." And Ed just goes, "Gay," while they're going up in the lift. But that's a callback to another time in the movie when Shaun. Then this is that line that you were talking about when they were going, go to Phil's, kill Phil, or go to Mom's, kill Phil, stuff like that. That part of the movie, Shaun says that he's got to go get Liz. He's got to go rescue Liz. And Ed's like, "Why? She dumped you." And he's like, "Because I love her." And Phil's like, "All right." Or Ed's like, "All right, gay." But it's a callback, and another time that gets brought up at the end as well. So, another one, and for my last one is between Ed and Shaun. It's still fucking hilarious to me. They're sitting in the living room, or they're standing in I guess Shaun's standing in the living room. Ed's sitting there playing video games, and Ed goes, "I'm sorry, Shaun." And Shaun's like, "It's okay." And he's like, "No, I'm sorry, Shaun." And Shaun's like, "What?" And kind of just stands there for a second. And then he smells Ed's fart. And he's like, "Oh my God, that's rotten." He's like, "I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing." And Shaun's like, "I'm not laughing." And that they bring that up, at the end. Ed's about to die in the basement, bleeding out from his neck. And he's like, I'm sorry, Shaun." And he's like, "Oh, it's all right, man." He's like, "No, I'm sorry." And he farts in the basement when he's bleeding out and dying. And he's like, "I'll stop doing it when you stop laughing." And through tears, because he knows that his best friend's about to die.
Yep.
He's like, "I'm not laughing." That scene where Ed's about to die and turn into a zombie, and Shaun has to say goodbye to him, and it's his he witnessed his stepdad die. Mm-hmm. He had to shoot his mom in the head.
Yeah.
His friends, all of his friends and people that he knows throughout the town, they're all dead, and he's had to kill quite a bit of them. And now his best friend, he's about to die, and he's got to say goodbye to him. And this movie is hilarious and a lot of goofiness in it, but that's a part that gets me when it happens. It's so fucking sad.
Yeah, it gets you in the feels.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah.
And then, and I think because where we're at, I think we've covered a lot of the movie.
A whole bunch of it.
So I think I'll take it to the end. Is another quote would be. So in the beginning of the movie, before everything happens, it's before Phil has to go to work.
Before Shaun has to go to work.
Sorry. Before Shaun has to go to work, and he jumps in with Ed. And it says they go to play a video game, and it says player 2 has entered the game. Yeah. And then it calls back to that.
Work, and then he's like, player 2 has left the game. Yeah.
Right. But it calls back to that at the very end of the movie. Liz and Shaun, it's like happily ever after. They're living in the apartment together. It's just them two. And then he goes, "I'll pop off to the shed for a bit," and then.
All right, then.
All right.
Like it's something that he regularly does.
Yeah,
that
like
she
that's
just
his
has
thing.
to be okay with it.
Yep. And then so you see him walk outside, and then you hear player 2 has entered the game, and then he's got fucking Ed as a zombie,
shackled up, playing the video game.
Right. And he goes to bite him.
He goes to grab the control. Shaun goes to grab the controller across from Ed, and Ed like reaches down to bite him and he just scolds him.
Right. Yeah. No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, I mean, and that's one of those. Even though it's really soon, it's really quickly after.
Right.
I mean, but it's one of those because you're if you're not crying, you're a heartless bastard.
It's twisted, but
And
it's
then-
a happy ending.
Right. But then right after that, then I mean, it's a callback to it's a familiar joke.
Yeah.
And it also signifies. I mean, he fucking loves his friend
He's
so
still got
much.
his
He's
best
keeping
friend.
him around. And I don't know about you, Tyler. I don't know if I can fucking keep you like that.
No.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Not only is-
how am I gonna feed you? What do you feed a zombie
Let's
you're
discuss
keeping as
this.
a pet?
Yeah, because that's something that like is worth talking about. It's like so at some point, and I've seen this. Let's see. There's 28 Days Later. I don't know if you've ever seen 28 Days
Yeah.
Later. Have you seen 28 Weeks Later, which is the sequel to it? But it's on HBO Max. If you get a chance, check it out. It's zombie movie
Okay.
choice. But they touch on the fact that like after a certain amount of time, zombies just are going to starve.
Yeah.
They don't have something to feed on. So are you saying that Shaun is going out and either feeding raw meat or feeding blood to Ed? I mean, how is he keeping Ed
He's
going
got to be.
and
Yeah.
alive?
He's got to be feeding him something. I mean,
Right.
he does look a little more decomposed than what he did. Obviously,
Right.
Because we didn't see him, evolve as a zombie.
Right.
But there is a few zombies that we saw throughout the movie,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't they weren't decomposing fast.
Right.
But there was a scene, and I forget what kind of animal it was, but it was like he saw him across the street, and there was a zombie in a park.
It was like a pigeon.
Was it a
It was
pigeon?
an old man, and he sees him like trying to catch this pigeon in a park full of pigeons.
Right.
And he
And so-
grabs him, and he lifts him up like he's. So maybe he was giving him animals, like or
Yeah. Maybe they were eating. Maybe you can live off of an animal.
Maybe.
I don't know.
yeah, maybe it's just blood, or maybe it's just flesh. I
Yeah.
don't- But yeah, I mean, it the question has to be asked, like is he going and getting animals for, and then also like, does it have to be live? Because why wouldn't zombies feed on other zombies if they're technically dead? They have to feed
Right.
on something that's alive. Like
Yeah.
why? What, is he going and getting live rabbits and just giving them to Ed to eat? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
the question has to be asked. But and we're getting really in depth on it and talking about really disgusting shit in a part that's supposed to be pretty heartwarming.
Would you keep me, Tyler?
I don't know, man. I mean, I guess
Also know that I just to your face told you I wouldn't keep
you
you.
did say that to me, you heartless prick. So I guess it's the type of zombie. It depends on the type of
Right,
zombie you
yeah.
are. If you're one of those rage zombies, nah, Batman. I would, yeah, no, not those crazy zombies. We're not doing that. But if you're like one of the
One of these zombies.
Dawn of the
Shaun
Dead,
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead, or like the Walking Dead type zombies, like maybe I would.
Right.
It depends on the type of. How much commitment am I going to have? Like, how much time am I going to have to spend
Yeah.
to keep you moving around
Right.
and keep you alive? Like, I don't know.
I think I could still do the podcast though.
Oh yeah.
That's and see. I want to do scenes now. I want to call it. Let's
oh yeah.
do scenes.
I got scenes. Yeah, I got scenes up the ass.
Say hello to our favorite scene.
And now, our favorite scene.
All right, so let's see here. My favorite scene. Well, one of my favorite scenes. I got three of them. But one of my favorite scenes is obviously the girl in the garden, Mary. And I can pretty much do that whole goddamn scene. But my favorite thing is like, Shaun walks to the corner store and doesn't notice the fact that like the little kid with the soccer ball is a zombie.
Right.
That the guy who begged change from him before is a zombie. And just
Right. He's
still
hungover.
He's still
Yeah, he's
walking his
hungover
dog
as hell.
on a leash. The zombie is, and he's reaching out asking for change, and he's just having a conversation with him because he's all fucking hungover and shit.
Right.
The store owner
and
is a zombie as well.
Right. And he just slams the money down. But this is not our introduction into zombies in the movie.
No.
But it is Shaun's.
Right, for sure. So he comes back from that, and he sits down, and Ed's just not there. And you look over, and Ed is just looking out in the backyard, looking out in the garden with the drapes like around him, so you can't see him. Mm-hmm. And you just hear Ed go, "There's a girl in the garden," and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "In the garden, there's a girl." And they go out there, and she turns around, and she's all pale and everything, and Shaun's like, "Oh my god, she's so drunk." And at that time, she starts to like meander over to him and everything, and he's like, sorry, love, I just got out of a relationship. He's like, I'm not really in a point to be in anything with anyone or whatever. And she grabs him, kind of tackles him, and like Ed goes 2 seconds, runs back inside, and instead of helping him, runs back inside, not realizing that it's a zombie that's trying to bite him.
Yeah.
And while he's like trying to get her off of him after she's tackled him, he sees her eyes, that her eyes are just all
Got
white,
the dead
with a little
eyes.
black,
Yeah,
with
dead
a little
eyes.
black dot in the middle, and Ed has him turn her head to the side, and they look over and he takes a picture of
Right.
her. But then he pulls her off her and realizes that something's wrong with her. And he was like, "What's wrong with her eyes? What the fuck's wrong with her eyes?" She starts to get closer to him again. Of course, she's a zombie. She's relentless. She starts to get closer to him and come back at him, and he pushes her away. And he's like, "I told you to fuck off." And she falls back on a metal pole,
metal pipe.
Metal pipe sticking out of the ground, and falls right onto it. And the great part is like when that happens, like you quietly hear Ed start to like click the camera, like reloading the film to take another picture. Shaun smacks the camera out of his hand. But the cool part of this scene is, and for 2004, it was really well done. She like stands up off the pipe, and the
super
camera angle,
creepily too.
very creepily. You see the camera angle when she stands up. You see a chunk of her stomach just taken out from this pipe, and it shows Shaun and Ed through that hole in her stomach.
Yeah.
But that scene is so awesome, and that goes even further. Like the big huge zombie is there, and they're throwing records at him to try and kill him, and they bust in the shed, and they come out with like a golf club and a cricket bat, and they just beat him to death, beat the zombies to death and everything. And that's when it cuts, and they goes in, and they're sitting inside, and they're eating the cornetto, watching the news, and Ed goes, "You got red on you."
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene is one of my favorites throughout the whole movie.
So one of the scenes we kind of touched on is when Shaun and his ragtag group of pals is they're sneaking over to the Winchester, and then they meet their doppelgangers, and what's her name, Yvonne. He sees Yvonne, and she goes, "Yvonne, hey, Shaun," and then they all hug. And she asks him like, "How are you doing?" And he goes, "Surviving," which is hilarious because we say that to each other right now.
Surviving.
Like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I'm alive.
Yep.
Like that's just the nice way of saying I don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But then they cross each other's paths, and then that's where what's the guy's name, Martin Freeman meets up with Simon and everyone that's in the group. I mean, Liz and even the dick roommate. He even has an
David,
actor that looks just like him.
Yep. And even the mom.
And even the mom. Yep. And that's it kind of made me want. It's just super fast. It's super fast scene, but it's super cool, and it also makes you want more. It makes you want more. I want to see that movie.
I want to see the two Eds like interacting with each other. I want to see
that
the two
been
moms
great.
interacting with each other. And we'll get to this a little bit later, but one of the reasons why I don't give this movie a full 10 out of 10 is because there's two things that I would have rather happened. I would have rather, Ed not die, and I would have rather those guys kind of team up and go to the Winchester with each other to have a better chance of survival.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene is they're even, when they're walking by each other, they're even greeting each other the same exact way. Like when the two Eds walk by each other,
they're on their phones.
They both got the "I got wood" shirt on, and they both are just looking at their phones, and they just to each other when they walk by. Yeah. It's so great.
And then shortly after that, and it almost leads right into it, is they realize, if we like pretend like we're a zombie, then maybe the zombies won't notice us.
Right.
And they're like, and what's the roommate's name? The dick roommate.
David.
David. And what's his last name? Is it Dylan?
I think so.
Okay, so David. Anyway, David, the dick roommate. He's like an acting coach or something like that.
No. So David he makes fun of him because he calls him an accountant throughout the whole
Okay.
Shaun,
Yeah.
but his girlfriend is the acting coach.
That's
failed
right.
actress.
Right. That's her.
Twat.
Okay. So she's trying to like give the delivery of being a zombie.
Yeah.
And
Drunk
it just goes
with a
like
hint of sadness.
and it just they go through down the line, and everyone's like and then every single one of them has like their own like, I could do a really, as Shaun said, I could do a really good zombie. He's like, piss off, no you couldn't.
Yeah.
And then
Like,
he actually does
no.
a fucking great zombie.
And then it gets Ed to admit like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Pretty good. But yeah, that was one of the other scenes that I had. Was the zombie auditions before walking up to the pub.
Yeah.
that whole scene where she's teaching everyone how to be a zombie while looking at the zombie that Shaun just stuck into the stomach and literally stuck into the tree so he can't move. That scene is pretty cool. That's also the scene where Shaun like takes 2 steps up the kiddie ladder for the slide and they ask how many zombies are there, and he gets down and he just goes, lots. There's just a ton of zombies just waiting in front of the Winchester. But yeah, that's another scene that's really funny that we just covered. And another one you talked about before was the Kill the Queen scene when they're in the
that whole bar sequence. Yep.
Yeah. He's like Shaun's holding on to the zombie, and the actress roommate or whatever throws a dart at him and misses, and he's like, no, and then she throws it again and it hits the zombie in the shoulder, and he's like, yes. He's like, aim for the head. And then throws it again and hits him in the side of the head with one of the darts. That, and then beating him with the pool sticks to the beat of "Don't Stop Me Now," and the way that he finally gets that jukebox to quiet down and to shut up that Ed put money in to attract all the other zombies is literally like running that big zombie into it and smashing his head into the jukebox or whatever. So, yeah, that scene is super cool. Another one that I want to talk about that can be also kind of added into the trivia, but it's also a cool scene, is the opening credits after there's that cool like dun, 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 like the cool music at the beginning. That opening credits literally shows all of the people who end up turning into zombies. All the major characters and all the one-off characters that you see, like the guy on the bus that's listening to music in front of him. The little kid with the soccer ball, the girl Mary working at the convenience store, shows all of them that turn into zombies just doing their normal thing and going through life, which is another ominous like foreshadowing, like they're showing all the people who are going to be dead soon, which is just cool. I thought it was fun. So before we get into trivia, because I've got about another 3 pages of it. What would you rank this movie?
You can do ranking.
Yeah.
So this is one that has some emotional attachment to it. So I'm going to rate it higher. But I'm going to say it's a solid low mid 8. So like 8.3, 8.4. I mean and I don't know when I watched it, but I was young, high school. And my best friend at the time was huge into zombie movies. Like we talked about making a zombie movie and just worshipped the Romero original trilogy, the Dawn of the Dead, and Night of the Living Dead,
Land
and just loved.
He did so many.
Yeah, he loved all of the zombie movies. And then when this came out, I mean, it was kind of like bridging the 2 worlds. And he told me all the cool like tidbit scenes, like all the trivia that you're about to say. I've probably heard it at least one point in some capacity from him while watching the movie. Like when he said, "We're coming to get you, Barbara." He like told me why. Oh, well, this is from this movie and this scene and this is and this is the context.
The zombie movie that has ever been, the first zombie movie that was ever made. Is that's definitely a callback to that movie.
Right. Yeah. And there's a shit ton of it in this movie. Yeah. And my best friend told me all that. So it was a good bonding moment. So shout out to my friend Sebastian.
Thank you, Sebastian.
I mean, this is what it was a good
Sebastian,
movie for both
like
of us.
To come on the podcast and talk about zombie movies, I am game.
Come on down.
Come on down. Welcome to After the Credits.
But yeah, so that it definitely has an emotional attachment for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when you said it wasn't released in theaters in America, I'm mind blown because
it was released. I just couldn't find it at any of the theaters that I went to.
But saying that, I mean the fact that you couldn't find one, because to me, this is a big movie.
It was weird to me too. Yeah.
I mean, and even hearing how small of a budget it was.
Yeah.
Because that was a Hot Fuzz. I mean, I heard about that movie. Maybe I've seen it. I can't remember it.
Right.
But this, yeah. I mean, so to me, I thought this was a lot bigger just because I had seen it. But yeah. So, and it was funny. It was smart funny.
Yeah.
I think the older I get, I don't like dumb funny as much.
I don't either.
I mean,
I can't do the scary movie franchise anymore. I can't do. I can't do the Tyler Perry movies anymore. I can't do.
I mean, just that whole the dumb funny is what I call it. I mean, even Family Guy. I've
grown out of Family Guy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, maybe I could rewatch some of the older episodes that I thought were funny. I don't know if I would think it was funny.
For nostalgia purposes, Family Guy, I go back and watch some of the old stuff, old Family Guy. But the new Family Guy is just trash.
I mean, I have evolved to Rick and Morty humor. I mean, where it's smart satire.
I will not. I will not agree about Rick and Morty. And I know
that's
I
fine,
know I'm probably going
but-
to lose listeners and I'm going to lose viewers, but that show is not funny to me.
It's your
at all.
it's your taste.
I get that
but
it's smart humor, and I get the jokes. I understand the jokes. It just doesn't make me.
Okay, all right, but back to Shaun of the
Yeah.
Dead. It's smart humor, and what's great is as an adult, being a little bit smarter than what I was back in 2004. I understood jokes a little bit more. I mean, like Kill the Queen. I knew it was referencing like a
Right.
Queen song, but I wasn't smart enough. I don't know. I was ignorant, and I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, British people don't say that. Like
No,
that's not a
an
thing
okay
you
thing.
say. That's a swear word. That's a bad word.
Right. And along the lines of being heartfelt and being funny and being
Yeah.
gory and kind of brutal and scary at the same time, like this movie, it was not politically correct. Like
No,
Ed drops
N-words.
the N bomb.
Yeah.
Like it's I know that in overseas in the UK the word cunt is more it's like me calling someone a dick or
Right.
a bitch or
Yeah.
something like that. Like it's
It's
more
more PC there.
accepted over
Yeah.
there. Like I would get a dirty look if I called someone a cunt out here in the States. It's just not something that. But they use that multiple times throughout the movie.
I'm
and I
gonna
think-
have to censor the hell out of this episode.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Please don't. But yeah. So I mean, given all that you said, I mean, what would you give what would your final ranking be for it?
Overall, 8.3, 8.4.
8.4.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So I mean, in my
What's
opinion,
yours? Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the best, not only zombie comedies because there's only like a few of them. It's one of the best zombie movies I've seen. So yeah, the only reason I don't give it a 10 out of 10 is because I really wish that Ed would have survived, which in a sense he kind of does. I mean, he's shackled as a zombie in the shed playing video games with. I mean, that's all I really want out of life is just to be able to sit and play video games with a buddy. So he's living out his best life as a zombie in the shed with Shaun, and then to have the two groups that kind of run into each other, team up. I really wish that would have happened. I thought there would have been there would have been a lot of comedy and a lot of opportunities for goofy shit to happen, in the Winchester, with that type of scenario going down. But just like you, like this movie, I remember the first time I've seen it. I'll never forget the first time I've seen it. I take lines from this and use in my everyday life. I relate to the characters in the movie. It's really well written. It's got some of my favorite British actors in it. It's just really, really fucking good. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, which is I believe the highest rating I've given a movie since I've started the podcast. So but this movie earned it. I mean, I this is something that whenever it's on, I watch it. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, go watch this. I'm sure you have. But if you haven't seen it, go watch this movie. It is fantastic. And also, it is Spooktober. It is the perfect time to go watch a zombie movie. And if you don't like the really bloody and really, horrific zombie movies that I do, this is a good movie to introduce you into the
it's not
genre.
too boring.
And it's bloody, but it's not horrible. Like I think the worst part is David getting literally torn apart and getting pulled out of the bar, getting his limbs ripped off,
But it's not too
but
much.
it's not like blood exploding all over the place. So
Right.
So yeah, 9 out of 10. I
Yeah.
think is what I'll give this one.
That's
So.
that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, and another thing that to the type of humor is, and I don't know if there's a genre for this, but there's a lot of inside jokes, and it's not to the sense of like you have to watch like this movie and this movie to watch it to be able to understand the jokes, but they within the movie create the inside jokes, all the reoccurring things, like the player 2 has entered the game, you've got red on you. I mean, it's things like that, and I think I don't know if I'm looking too far into it, but people like to feel included on things. Like that's why we as humans do inside jokes. Like it's a group thing. It's a compadre type situation where only like we know the password, we know the secret, and this is our joke, and no one else can have it, and it's special to us. And that's what this movie does. I mean, everyone that watches this movie, you can say, your one-liners like, yeah, boy. I mean, you can do things like that, and then, you'll get the head nod like, yeah, you've seen Shaun of the Dead too. I like you because of that.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
dude, for sure. I honestly, whenever I quote this movie around people or a group of friends or whatever, I've yet to run into somebody who doesn't reciprocate
Yeah.
it or doesn't
Yeah.
know it or doesn't respond with another quote from the movie.
Yep.
So yeah, it's amazing. It's fantastic. If out of all the movies that we've covered, if you haven't seen it, I suggest to go see this one. It's just or to watch this one. It's absolutely fantastic. So that leads us to the trivia portion of our first Spooktober episode. So let's get it. So for my trivia, I've got a lot to cover. Just so put your boots on, grab your cricket bat, sit back, and make sure that you're ready to fight some zombies because I've got some cool trivia to throw at you here. So first thing I want to talk about is the
I'm ready.
Evident. I'm glad you're ready. Fuck, man. At least someone's ready. I know that someone listening to this right now is like, guy, I got to take a break. I'm not ready for this. This is too much for me right now. They're fanning themselves off in their car wherever they're listening to the podcast. So the first thing I have is the creator of the movies to which the movie pays homage to and lampoons, George A. Romero, was so impressed with Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright's work that he asked them to cameo in Land of the Dead in 2005 as zombies. So I haven't gone back and rewatched it, but at some point I'm gonna have to go back and watch Land of the Dead that came out in 2005 and look for Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright as zombies in that movie. Which, if you make a zombie, take two. If you make a zombie movie and you get George A. Romero to be like, also rest in peace. If you get George A. Romero to tell you like, hey, that was great, I love that, that's a good zombie movie, you've made it, you've done it, like you've accomplished everything you need to accomplish for that film. So another thing here, it's when asked by an interviewer why they chose to have slow moving zombies instead of running zombies, which you and I have had the conversation before about rage zombies compared to slow moving zombies and how you're not really a fan of the rage zombies, but Simon Pegg simply replied, because death is not an energy drink. Which I think is the perfect response to why zombies would be slow and zombies wouldn't be, rage zombies and all speed.
You don't need. I don't know. I suppose there's a niche market of if you want something that if it's more of like a virus type deal where you turn into some crazy monster, but zombies have them be slow because that's Michael Myers isn't fast. Nope. Jason Voorhees isn't fast. Right. I mean, those things like you're running, and they're just walking because they know they gonna get you. And
that's the thing is like and you basically said it is I the only time that I'll accept the rage zombies is when it's not people dying and coming back to life. When it's someone gets infected with some blood or gets infected with something else, gets bitten by something else. And then they turn into a rage zombie because of a type of virus that infects them. That's the only way that I'm okay with.
And to quote the movie, those would not be the Z word.
Yep. We don't use the Z word. Simon Pegg hits the nail on the head with why they have slow moving zombies. So Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright considered writing a sequel to this that would replace zombies with another type of monster, but decided against it as they were pleased with the movie as a standalone production, and thought too many characters died in the movie to continue the story. The proposed title was supposed to be From Dusk Till Shaun instead of From Dusk Till Dawn, which I thought would have been fantastic.
Not as good.
No, not as good, but I honestly... I talked with Isaiah about this, and I talked with Molly about this. Along the lines of Marvel movies, they haven't let me down yet, and they haven't made a bad product yet. So until they do, I'm going to put full faith in them. That's how I feel about Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Yeah. They haven't put out a bad movie. They haven't done something I don't enjoy yet. So until they do, I'm gonna be along for every fucking ride that they put out. Yeah. So I would have watched From Dusk Till Shaun. Yeah. However, this idea did have an afterlife. So. A mocked-up poster can be seen in the film Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that came out in 2018. You can see a poster that says From Dusk Till Shaun in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I don't... Why? I'm not against it. I think it's fucking awesome, but that's so random to put it in that movie. I just... It's impressive to me. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, so there is a universe out there in which that exists.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, and it's cool because it's in a movie that is literally Is that going to come through?
A little bit.
That's hilarious.
I'll bring it to
That's fine.
attention here after the next bit.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, Into the Spider-Verse is literally about a multiverse being opened up. So in some universe, the movie From Dusk Till Shaun exists, which is great. So the next little bit of trivia I got is Shaun and Ed's friendship is based on Simon Pegg and Nick Frost's friendship when they actually shared an apartment together. Next thing I got here is when Shaun, Liz, David, Diane, Barbara, and Ed run into the alternative gang. As they make their way to the Winchester, there's quite a few comedy partnerships brought together again. Simon Pegg and Jessica Hines, Tim and Daisy from the movie Spaced, which the movie Spaced comes up quite a bit in this, but that was the first movie that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost kind of did together with all their buddies. Another one was Lucy Davis and Martin Freeman, Don and Tim from The Office, the British Office in 2001. You got Dylan Moran and Tamsin Greig, Bernard and Fran from Black Books in 2000. Not sure of that movie. And then Julia Deakin and Nick Frost are, of course, in Space 2 as Marsh and Mike, respectively. So they meet each other then as well, which is kind of cool. So, again, like I said before, they really get, a lot of top and big actors from those types of films and from, British comedy, British acting and stuff to be in this film. So it's nice. So Night of the Living Dead director George A. Romero was given a private viewing of this movie near his house in Florida. During the scene in which Ed, Nick Frost, yells into the phone, "We're coming to get you, Barbara," Romero was completely oblivious to the fact that it was a direct lift from his movie Night of the Living Dead, only to find out later with a phone conversation with the director that they were...
Really?
Like, yeah, so the phone conversation, I'm sure, went, "Oh, so did you like the callback to Night of the Living Dead?" And he goes, What? Which one?" He's like, "Well, we yelled, we're coming to get you, Barbara." And in the movie, like you brought up a little bit ago, they're in the graveyard and the guy's teasing Barbara and "They're coming to get you, Barbara. Look, there's one right there. He's coming to get you." Blah blah blah. It's so it's a complete callback to Night of the Living Dead, which was awesome. This little fact is cool. This little bit of trivia is cool. Quentin Tarantino dubbed this as one of the top 20 movies made since 1992.
Huh?
Quentin Tarantino, one of the top 20 movies made since 1992. He loved the movie so much that he dubbed it that, which is awesome. Which is just goes to furthers the fact why I gave this a 9 out of 10. It's just a fantastic movie. So, the day of the zombie invasion, not evasion. The day of the zombie invasion, when Shaun walks to the corner shop and doesn't notice zombies in the streets and corpses all over. The scene is one long shot, unbroken. Just one long shot where the camera follows him there. It's really good too. And follows him back. It's awesome when movies do that. I think was a movie 1914 or 1917. I can't remember the title of the movie. It's 1914 or something like that. The movie was kind of filmed as it was like one long take and one long shot. It's so yeah.
What is that with Michael Keaton? Birdman.
Birdman. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of shots in that.
Right.
I mean, that are just one continuous shot.
Yeah, which speaks to the talent of the cameraman, the talent of the director, and the talent of the actor.
Oh yeah, the choreography, everything's got to be planned out to the T.
That's not easy to do for sure. Yeah. So, because of the timing and similarity of the names, distributors were forced to hold this movie back until 2 weeks after Dawn of the Dead was released in the UK. So, Dawn of the Dead, the remake, where they're in the mall and they have those like kind of rage zombies. Came out in 2004 and was released in 2004 in the UK. They had to push back Shaun of the Dead because the names were too similar and they were too closely related films, which I thought was interesting that these two films came out around each other. It was kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So let's see here. According to Edgar Wright, cornettos appear in the movie. Cornetto's appearance in the movie is because he once ate a cornetto to get over Ed ate a cornetto once to get over a hangover. And thought it would be funny if Ed did the same thing after a night of drinking. So that's where that kind of comes from. I thought it was cool. And throughout all of they call it the Cornetto trilogy. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and At World's End all have references to cornettos in them. But yeah, it's something that they literally had before, and they just decided to put it in the movie. So let's see here. And Mark, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay, cool. In March 2011, this movie was voted by BBC Radio 1 and BBC Radio 1 Extra listeners as their second favorite movie of all time.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
For sure. The movie that came in first place was The Shawshank Redemption. So literally they're like, oh, Shawshank Redemption is the greatest movie of all time. Number 2, Shaun of the Dead. Wow, that's fucking crazy. That's insane.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome though. I mean,
so cool.
That makes me feel like I'm not like a niche group of people
Right.
that like these kind of movies.
Like, yeah, I'm not goofy for absolutely loving this film, and I'm not alone for sure. So the rifle they use in the Winchester is naturally a Winchester Model 66. It's the same weapon used in Night of the Living Dead in 1968 and Night of the Living Dead in 1990. Same movie or same gun. Callback to both of those Night of the Living Dead movies. Lots of callbacks. It's pretty awesome. So when zombies are making their way into the Winchester, Shaun shouts to Ed, "Get behind me! Get behind me!" The same way Han Solo shouts to Chewbacca as stormtroopers are entering the cell block in Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. And that one came out in 1977, and it's one of Simon Pegg's favorite movies of all time. So he put that in there because of that. So in the beginning, after Liz splits up with Shaun, the jukebox in the Winchester plays "If You Leave Me Now" by Chicago. Ed says, "Who the hell put this on?" Shaun replies, "It's on random." Later in the Winchester, it plays "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen, and Shaun goes, "Who the hell put this on?" And Ed yells, "It's on random." Yeah. Another callback to previous.
It's that inside joke stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. So almost all bit characters in the movie can be seen later in the movie as zombies. So they use the same actors to be extras as zombies throughout the entire film, which is cool. Yeah. And it also makes it to where it's not like overdone by zombies. Like I've seen zombie movies where it's like, oh, there's like 400,000 zombies standing here. Like that's way too many for this small town or whatever. It seemed pretty legitimate and kind of cool.
Realistic, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see here. So when Shaun is so Nick Frost, Ed, allegedly kept his genitals shaved thoroughly throughout the production to create a genuine need to scratch that the character demanded. So made sure homeboy had itchy genitals the whole time to show the whole like, oh, Ed's kind of a simpleton type guy who's constantly scratching his nuts.
That's one way to do it, I suppose.
Dedication to a role, man. Let me tell you.
Method actor, a completely different form of method acting.
Real deep method acting, but I thought it was great.
No, that's awesome.
So when Shaun's heading into the shop for the first time, a worker on the street is listening to the radio. The newscast mentions a space probe that unexpectedly re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and broke up over England. This is likely a reference to Night of the Living Dead, in which radiation from a satellite returning from Venus was given as a possible cause for the dead returning to life.
Okay.
Lots of references to Romero's work, and you can clearly see the inspiration in the movie. So let's see here. When Shaun and the group are running out of Liz's flat, they're all carrying weapons of some kind, but only Shaun actually hits any zombies. This is because only the cricket bat that Shaun was carrying was padded. It was a fake weapon. The rest of the items that the others were carrying were real. The golf club and stuff like that, they were all real and would have hurt the extras playing the zombies if they would have hit them. Huh. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. And maybe it was because of the budget. Maybe it was partially because of the budget. They're like, well, we can't make up mock weapons for everyone.
Well, yeah. A padded golf club's going to be more expensive than a golf club.
100%. Yep. So yeah, that was kind of cool. Near the beginning of the movie, when Ed is playing on the PlayStation 2, Shaun directs him top left, reload, good shot, etc. When the gang are in the Winchester pub and Shaun is firing at the zombies, Ed repeats exactly what Shaun instructed him to do while playing Time Splitters 2 back at the apartment, which is, hey.
Yeah, top left,
what?
3 o'clock.
Another fucking callback.
Yep.
So that one's fun. Let's see here. First part of Simon Kegg's, this is the first part of Simon Kegg and Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy. The other two parts are Hot Fuzz and The World's End. So, like I mentioned before. So that was our trivia that I've got for the movie. I would be foolish to forget this segment given that it's a zombie movie. But we need to talk about how many things, I say things because there's zombies and humans, how many things were killed in this movie. So we got Tyler's death count for this film. What do you think it is?
I don't know. I mean, you say not zombies, just humans, and I mean you can probably count on two hands how many humans died, but then you say zombies, and then you fucking that bar scene. holy shit.
Just
there's a lot of them
bullets
that die.
flying and
I mean, Molotov cocktails get brought out.
yeah. And we might not ever know the exact amount or the exact count because they burned that bar down. How many zombies were up there and burnt up in the fire?
Yeah, but usually we do on-screen deaths, though, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, probably right around 60, 70, right around in that neighborhood.
I mean, along the lines of like up to where they get to the bar, that's pretty accurate. When they get to the bar, it's at about like...
Wait, there's 60, 70 before the bar?
I mean, a little less than that, but it's a lower number before they get to the bar, and it really skyrockets when the fight scene happens.
Yeah.
Starts in the bar. But before they get to the bar, it's about 30,
I guess I suppose
40.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I was just thinking it out loud in my head, like when they're picking up his mom.
Yeah.
When they're picking up Barbara. I mean
They're running over him with cars.
Yeah.
You're seeing people
Yeah.
get eaten out in the street and stuff like that.
Forget about how much of those that they're killing.
Right, for
Okay.
sure. So before they get to the bar, it's about 30, 40 in that area. After the bar scene's over and at the end of the movie, it totals up to 116 total deaths.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's also, I believe, and I'll have to go back and look at this, but I believe it's the movie that we've covered that has had the most deaths. The Blade trilogy, I don't think any of them broke 100, and if they did, it was barely over. This is a zombie movie, so there's going to be a lot of deaths. I think that's the one that has the most deaths that we've covered since I started the podcast. Little fun factoid, right?
Which one has the most?
I think this one. I think Shaun of the Dead has the most deaths of any movie that we've covered.
Even more than the Zack Snyder zombie movie?
Oh, you might be right. I don't remember the death count of that, but we did do that movie, and I think it was a lot.
That was probably a lot.
Quite a bit, yeah. So, zombie movies tend to have a higher death count.
Yeah, by nature.
Yeah.
The goriest, the scariest, the most satisfying. Here's our favorite death.
So having said that, a new little segment that I think I'm going to do for Spooktober is, what was your favorite death in this zombie movie? If you don't have one, I do, but what would be your favorite death in this zombie movie? In Shaun of the Dead.
Man, that's tough because there's a lot of them.
And there's two. I guess there's two different.
I don't want to take yours. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with his mom because his and it's not because I wanted her to die.
No, I mean,
like,
but that's probably the most impactful one.
Right. Because I think honestly, maybe would have been better if she stayed in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect kind of character to take along with you on a journey like that. And my mom's gonna hear me say this, and I'm gonna get bitched at hard for it. But I can relate to her. I mean, and I'm not calling my mom dumb or dense or anything, but I think that's just how sons see their mom. Like they see their mom like, oh, mom, come on.
Right.
And that's how I feel towards Barbara.
Yeah.
She's not dumb.
No.
But it's like she's a fucking mom and she just doesn't get it.
Well,
she don't get it. But at the end of the day, that's your fucking mom. You love your mom. You're getting your mom flowers and all that other shit. And that's so and the fact that he has to kill his own mom. Could I kill a lot of people if they turn into zombies? Yeah. I can flip that switch.
Right.
But like my own parents,
I don't know.
My own family,
I don't think I could.
I don't think
It'd
I
be
could
really
do it.
difficult. It would be more
Right.
of a lock you in this room situation. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to be able to kill you.
I mean, even if I was locked in a room with someone, it was just them. It was them or me. It was zombie them or me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm being a zombie. I couldn't do that. I mean, in that scene, tears in my eyes. I didn't full cry, but definite tears were there. And so I think that death out of any of the other ones, even maybe Ed, I think that one moved me the most.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is like the death of Barbara was probably the most impactful, for the sole fact that we don't see Ed die. So the most impactful death. I mean, and honestly, it shows on the actors' faces, except for fucking David, that cocksucker. Like you see Ed like tearing up and trying to fight back tears because he knows, And another funny thing, but it also leads to how impactful this death was. Is like throughout the movie, Ed's got a goofy relationship with Shaun and his mom. He's constantly saying that, like,
hitting on her.
Yeah, he's hitting on her, flirting with her, stuff like that. It's hilarious. But like you can see how close. I mean, obviously, it goes to show that these guys were childhood friends, which means that he probably grew up with Shaun's mom, just like you know Shaun probably grew up with Ed's parents, whatever. So the relationship between Ed and his mom is so impactful that it hurt him, and he was breaking down. When it happened as well, like. That was a tough scene to watch. I mean, it was. I know it's a comedy, and I know it's a goofy movie, but that's a tough scene to watch just because it's so fucking sad. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good, impactful death. So
hey, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. So for me, my favorite one, and probably because it's the most satisfying, is, and I think you know what I'm saying, is David finally losing it and going out. He's like, fuck it, I'm going to chance it and I'm just going to go outside. And they're telling you, David, that's suicide. Why would you do that? And he opens the door and a hand comes in. He gets close to the door and a hand comes through and grabs him and pulls him out. And you can see the zombie's hands are just reaching into his stomach and ripping his intestines out. And then you see like I think it's Liz and the other girl grab like his legs and pop, his legs come off, and then you see his arms get ripped off from the zombies and everything, and he basically just gets pulled through the mass of zombies, just getting torn apart and eaten. That was not only were the prosthetics cool and like the effects were cool, but like, god damn it was satisfying.
Yeah, because you hate that. You love to hate that guy.
He
and also you see him suffer too. He doesn't die immediately. The zombies know like
he's still screaming while they're like ripping his arms off and pulling his guts out. Yeah, for sure. That was a really, really satisfying one. And then the other one was just when Pete finally gets shot after he bites Ed. He bites Ed on the arm, and then Shaun with the callback line is, "I said leave him alone," and then just right between the eyes, headshot, blows his brains out and kills him. Yeah. That was another really cool one. So, yeah, those are the favorite deaths in this movie, and I think that's something that we'll carry through for our Shocktober episodes.
I think we can do that.
We've got some horror movies that have a lot of killing in them. So, and just let you guys know, this is going to be the only one that's a comedy. The rest of them get pretty dark and are pretty brutal. So, stay tuned for those episodes. I think that's going to do it for us for Shaun of the Dead. I appreciate you guys listening. Just keep an eye out for the other episodes coming up with a new guest, and I will talk to you guys then. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us for the first Spooktober episode. Our next episode, we bring in a special guest. So make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you listen on. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at afterthecredits.tv. Let us know what your favorite Halloween movies are. And while you're there, make sure to like, comment, and follow. We'll be posting updates on all of our upcoming episodes. All month long in October, we'll be doing some great spooky films. We love you more than Ed loves Shaun's mom. That's a wrap.